described how important federal investments are in NIDR-D to this country. And as you know, we face rather challenging budgetary climate right now. For Dr. McKinley, the question frequently arises, why can't more of this be done out of the private sector? So if you can talk about what you think the implications are if we continue to cut back on basic R&D, what is the likelihood that Microsoft or other private companies would fill in the gap of the research that now is being done on basic R&D?
So most companies aren't making even the modest investment that Microsoft's making. A startup company takes some ideas that are in a university and doesn't exist until those ideas exist, and then they become a billion-dollar industry and a competitor of Microsoft's like Google. So those kinds of activities just won't happen in big established companies, even ones that believe as strongly in research and the research ecosystem as Microsoft.
I'd also like you, all three of you have mentioned the importance of education. I have a junior in college who's doing computer science and astrophysics. But there are not many girls in his class, I will tell you that, very few young women. Could you talk about what you see as the opportunities and what actually we can be doing, particularly at the younger ages? What can we be doing in this country if we are going to get U.S. competitiveness, which is this long pipeline? And as he tells me, Mom, these classes are really hard. I could be doing much better in economics or in my major, political science, but computer science and physics are really hard. So what can your insights, what can we do with MOOCs, with other things? What should we be doing as a country, and how does R&D fit into that?
So we have to have better math and IT education. Right now, computer science is the AP class is only taught in 5% of high schools across the country. If people, especially women and minorities, don't have exposure to computer science as high school students, they never decide to pick it up in college anymore, because now there's a dichotomy of skills and they feel like they're already behind because it is a hard major. And so I think what we need to be doing is prepping more of our students in high school to have the skills that at least it's a choice for them. So more rigorous math and science classes and the preparation, the right sets of skills so that they can do them.
A comment that I think is important is that computer science needs to be viewed as part of STEM. In the state of Washington, where I am, it's part of essentially commercial education. It's in there with wood shop and metal shop and cooking. And I took print shop when I was in high school in Washington, D.C., but I don't use it a lot today. Every student going forward needs to understand what we call computational thinking. Every field, whether it's biology or sociology, is utilizing computational thinking. That's models and algorithmic expression and decomposing problems into pieces you can solve and assembling and testing those results. We do this in our daily lives. So I think of programming as the hands-on inquiry-based way in which we teach computational thinking. It can be an end in itself, but at the K-12 level, computational thinking as part of STEM, embodied in AP Computer Science, which uses programming as an inquiry-based way to teach that, is critical for all students.
So this is a subject I'm pretty passionate about. And we lose a shocking number of our young girls around 3rd or 4th grade, and we never get them back. I have a daughter that's struggling right now as a junior to decide whether she wants to go into a STEM field or into art. It is really that far apart. I think we need to be a little more aggressive and get funding streams to connect what's going on in the undergraduate population and go all the way back into the educational pipeline as far back as 3rd grade, and get them thinking about the computational thinking, but also give them examples. Why are we doing this? Why do we care? How will it benefit society? In my experience, the young girls that I've worked with, once you educate them about how it's going to impact society, they're all on board. They're interested.
So I just want to add the creativity part of computer science is often undervalued, and that we want our young people to know that they can be creators of technologies, not just consumers and users of it, and that it's now easy with some of the technologies such as robotics, Connect, and other things to really help them if we provide some educational tools to go along with some of these technologies to help them see how to satisfy their needs for creativity in this field, which is very exciting.
I wanted to say one word about MOOCs, which is something that you raised and other members have raised. The notion that what you learn in college lasts you for a lifetime, that's a notion we left behind in the 20th century. So one thing MOOCs do is give you the opportunity to pick up knowledge that you need throughout your lifetime. I think there is an enormous amount of work to be done in understanding exactly how people learn through MOOCs, in figuring out how to use the large-scale data to understand how people learn and how we can teach them better. We just ran a workshop the past 2 days in Washington, D.C. on exactly this subject, which is what is the science that we can do in this online scalable world to understand how to teach and learn better. So I think there are enormous opportunities here, particularly for lifelong learning. The jury's still out on whether it dramatically changes the four-year college experience or K-12.
Follow that up a little bit, because it seems to me part of this is the inherent tension between what we do, which tends to be dealing with the urgent, and the important, which is the long-term R&D. And so how we get the marriage of those two so that we address these important problems. Dr. Lazowska, you talked about the importance of patience in basic R&D. And we are facing, Representative Stockman and I sat in on the same briefing by General Alexander, which was completely terrifying to us about how incredibly vulnerable we are at every level. And we haven't even really talked about the energy grid, which is truly stupefyingly terrible, because we know they don't even have systems that are 20 years old. They're older than that right now. So that's a different order of challenge, because they aren't even operating the way they ought to be, much less are they secure. So if any of you have thoughts on how we balance this need for problem solving about these urgent, immediate needs, and yet also fund basic research that we can't exactly say where it's going to lead, but we do know it is going to lead to these important innovations down the road.
I'm afraid this is why we vote for you. These are very difficult challenges. I will say that shortly after September 11th, 2001, I was on a National Academies panel that looked at IT R&D relative to national security. And what we concluded was precisely that investments in protecting our vast infrastructure that relies on computing are much more important than my inability to buy from Amazon one afternoon because the internet is down, all right? So every element of our critical national infrastructure relies now inherently on information systems, and we have to recognize that does represent a huge vulnerability.